Hello, welcome back to Getting Open with me, Andrea Miller. Okay, if you identify as somebody who is conflict avoidant, a people pleaser, somebody who battles imposter syndrome or has trust issues, or really feel like you have a hard time saying what you mean, particularly when it feels like there's conflict and you feel afraid, this show is for you. My guest and I, we go in deep, we go in with a lot of passion, and we come out with so many actionable, practical takeaways for making change. And sure, some of the things, can take a little longer to go within deeply and feel worthy, but that's not what the show is about. This show is about very actionable, practical things you can literally do now. And I mean literally now, to upend the people pleasing, the imposter feeling, the imposter syndrome feeling, the conflict avoidance. This show is so good. Let's get into it. Raele Altano is a certified communication coach and the founder of Well with Raele Coaching, where she helps conflict avoidant women speak up, stop shrinking, and set boundaries with confidence. Raele has built a community of over 700,000 engaged followers on social media, where she shares actionable scripts, real-life examples, and confidence-boosting tools to help people communicate clearly, kindly, and without regret. And oh my God, you guys have to follow her. It's so freaking good. And you're going to see her in a sec. She's so gorgeous. So it's like, you get it all the good advice, and it's entertaining and beautifully presented. Raele works with individuals through one-on-one coaching, teaches classes on communication skills and reframing mindsets, and leads workshops for nonprofits and corporates. Welcome to Getting Open, Raele. Thanks so much for joining me. I cannot wait to start talking to you. You get into all the good stuff.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. I try. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you for having me.
For sure. Well, let's just start with what's personal to you, because you're so passionate about your work and helping women in a way that is so personal and relatable to literally millions of women. And it's a lot of the stuff a lot of women don't want to talk about, right? But we all know it. So what happened in your life to make you so passionate, open, and committed to this kind of work?
Yes. So I grew up with divorced parents. They emigrated to the United States right before I was born, first generation American. And there were a lot of stigmas around divorce then, especially within my culture.
From Armenia, right?
Yes, within the Armenian culture, exactly. So divorced parents, only child from that marriage, mediated a lot between the two. Always wanted to keep the peace. School was my happy place, and just connecting with classmates. And it was my constant, really, because we had a joint custody situation. And that all led to wanting to be liked. I was outwardly confident, and there were a lot of good things, of course, in that, but I really wanted to be liked, hated conflict, and was very in tune with everybody else, but always put myself last. So it's taken years to unlearn. It is still a work in progress. I think even over the last 3-4 years since I've become a mom, I've unlearned so much as I step into that new role. So constant work in progress. And I want to support other women who have had similar experiences, or maybe not, but the underlying theme is the same. Help them speak up, find their voice, say what they want to say with confidence, say it clearly, and move forward.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. I mean, I presume you're married?
Yes.
So
yes.
What is the relationship been like with your husband? With the preface being, by the way, I have 2 boys, they're 12 and 15, and we're going to talk about your baby, your little one. I just sent mine to 7th grade today, always a baby, because our kids are I always call my boys my little Buddhas, because they have so much to teach. But I would expect, even before that your marriage has been a crucible of sorts for learning these things that you're teaching other women. So talk about that, will you?
Sure. A lot of patience, empathy, understanding. That's one of the techniques I try to lead with, which we'll get into, but approaching from a place of understanding first, if possible, and initiating the conversation in that way. So it's called the AGE technique. I'll put it out there right now. AGE is approach with gratitude and empathy. So like, look, I hear you.
Hang on. AGE is
Sure.
A is what? Approach?
A is approach, yeah, with gratitude and empathy. But leading with phrasing around that. Thanks so much for doing this the other day. I'd love if we could chat about maybe doing some things differently for next time or whatever. Or look, I hear you. I know you've had a long day, but I didn't love how you spoke to me the other day. Or I wish you handled this when we agreed you'd handle it. So leading with that gratitude or empathy when possible, and extending grace to your partner. And I think especially as parents, your patience is running lower. You're tired. You just have more, both moms and dads have mental load. So giving that extra layer of grace, knowing the person in front of you is a human, and giving respect while also commanding it and expecting it.
But let me ask you this. I totally agree with that theory, and it's a great practice. But when things are breaking down, and let's face it, that's when our relationships are our greatest teachers. When little Raele, who had to be the freaking parent, right, who was there to keep everything calm and willing to do that at her own freaking expense. I'm making presumptions here, so tell me if I get anything wrong. But I think a lot of us can relate to playing that role, especially women. Talk about how that has played out in your marriage. And by the way, I love that. I mean, I don't love the word age, but okay. We'll come back to aging gracefully, right? But I love the but I love that. No, I love the acronym. I mean, listen, gratitude, grace, empathy. I mean, these are practices, and the more you practice, clearly, the more you master them, right? And that becomes the norm in a relationship. But I am curious, considering what you went through as a younger person, when it breaks down. I mean, what have you done? I mean, really underneath, right? Because we can do more of that more skillfully when what's underneath has been healed. So, and I'm curious how that the challenging side of that has shown up in your marriage, and how it's how it's played out. Like where have you messed up and where have you done better?
Great question. Jumping to conclusions, maybe from past trauma or past triggers, assuming the worst, because that's just how it unfolded in my experience. So jumping to conclusions, I think, would be a big one. And especially earlier on, like we've been married now 5.5 years.
Talk about an example of jumping to conclusions. Like, I mean, we can all get that theoretically, but bring us into a moment where you have thought the worst or you have felt the worst, and that has caused things to unravel.
Something my husband said, I'm not even remembering the exact example at the moment. He had said something. So he misinterpreted something I said about waking up early, and got upset, got a little bit annoyed about that, and took it as an opportunity to kind of pat himself on the back. He was like, wow, it's a good thing you have a supportive husband to do XYZ. And that set me off a little bit. I said, that's, we both should give each other credit. Like, why say that now? Also, we were just getting ready to go to bed, and like, it just felt unnecessary. So he ended up saying, it wasn't the right time, and I shouldn't have said that like that. Like my feelings were just frustration because he had to get up early for something. And he said, but I was not trying to negate things that you do. Like, I wasn't trying to take away from all of your contributions, all of your effort, and everything that you do. So he said, I was wrong, but he said, I think you taking it to the next level and taking it to that place was also unwarranted and a little bit extreme. And I think it comes from a little bit of like prepping for the worst case scenario, or always, not always, but tending to think that someone is making a dig at you or like trying to knock you down a peg. So we talked through it, worked through it. It was frustrating, but I think it was a combination of a few communicated. This wasn't setting a boundary necessarily, but it was just honesty on both ends and working to understand one another.
How long have you guys been together?
Been together over 10 years, married for 5.5.
Okay, so is this the product of a lot, because that sounds like a very grown-up relationship. and good job, right? And this is stuff you teach. And at the same time, I mean, I'm pressing a little bit because so often you only learn these things, especially coming from what you described, through doing it wrong. Right. And I think most of us can relate to not being in a grown-up relationship and doing it wrong and trying really hard to get it right. And so did it take a while to get to that point where you were able to have what sounds like, I mean, by the way, my husband and I have had these amazing breakthroughs recently where it's like through so much hurt and heartache, things have gotten better. Right. But it's taken a lot of courage for both of us and having the willingness to say things that have been scary, right? And you talk about hard conversations, and we'll come back to that because that's, a big part of your platform, I think. But I'd love to rewind a little bit. It's like 10.5 years later, you're able to have that conversation. How long did it take, and what kind of work did you do to get to that point where he can say something stupid, you can react stupidly, and then both of you can say, yeah, that was stupid. Because that's what happened. I mean, and that's that little Raele, and I don't know your husband's name, but like little whatever his name is. What's his name?
Yeah, Eric.
Yeah. I mean, but that's where it's all coming from, right? Because here, intellectually, for those of you who are listening, and I'm pointing to my brain, pointing to my head, we know better, in air quotes, but it's that little sides of us, little, inner children in us that feel that tendency to react. And like you say, you didn't say overreact. You said, what did you say? Like kind of expect the worst.
Yes.
Right?
Assume the worst, expect the worst.
Assume the worst. Thank you.
Yes, exactly. It's taken a lot. I think just maturing, also knowing you can't sweat the small stuff because there are so many small things. There are, especially when you have very young kids. Our boys are 3 and 1. I mean, there's a lot. Your patience is running low, or you're tired, or whatever. So knowing you can't sweat the small stuff, but also just a little bit of, or not a little bit, a lot of inner work. He's done work. I mean, even with my coaching and what I teach, I think you teach what you most need to know. You teach what you most need to learn. Excuse me. So that's a big part of it. And saying, okay, if this were a client, how would I guide them? What would I say? In the past, it used to be going from saying nothing to just like exploding, assuming the worst, all of the things. In this case, I flagged it right away. And I said that wasn't cool. And it felt like this to me. And he said, that's when he was like, that, yes, that wasn't right, but that wasn't my end goal wasn't to diminish you.
Yeah. Well, and what's nice about that modeling is, everything you just described in that kind of grown-up relationship is if you're both self-aware enough and you're willing just to take that breath, almost everything can get sorted out. I would say everything can get sorted out, including betrayals and huge disappointments. I think part of it is that practice. And then I also think it's back to the expectations thing. If you assume good intent versus bad intent, right? And I feel like that assuming bad intent can be really tricky, because for so many of us that were raised by parents that genuinely tried their best, that did love us. But they I always say, it's a Marianne Williamson phrase, you can't give what you don't have, right? So our parents couldn't give us a better modeling of what it looks like to be in a healthy, successful marriage, in the case of your family, or in the case of a lot of other families, including mine, that addiction ends up running rampant because right? Because that's how addiction works, and so many other coping mechanisms that prevent that mature modeling, right? And so then it leaves you and me and many millions of others to try to figure it out on their own. But let me rewind a little bit. Just so when it comes to your work, what are the one or two most common? I mean, you talk about you choose to teach what you need to master, right? Which is so noble. What are the one or two most prevalent things that you see in your practice that you're teaching women to do, or that they're coming to you with? And those could be different. They think they're coming to you for X, I bet, at times, but you're really like, yo, it's Y.
Yes.
So talk to me about X and Y.
Sure, absolutely. Sometimes they think they're coming to get just to speak better, to show up more confidently, to present better in a meeting, to articulate better, like all the technical stuff that comes with communication, but it's really inner confidence. It's fighting through that imposter syndrome. It's owning your space and right to speak, and trusting your instincts. Major one. It's that inner confidence. So when I first started out within coaching, I started more broadly, and my goal was I want to help women feel more confident. I want to help improve confidence, and that was what my go-to was. But I kept coming to communication topics because I love to talk, and I think it's just that's one of the biggest ways that you can present yourself and show up in the world. And I said, I think there's more. It's more powerful to niche down and to focus on communication, improving communication, but then still improving the bigger picture and boosting, change or impacting someone's confidence and making them a more powerful, more confident person, and in turn, a better communicator, a more effective communicator, a clearer one, or even someone says, you know what, I said that wrong. Let me backtrack. This is what I mean. Like even just the confidence to do that and to own a fumble, or to say, let me start over, or look, I need to take a pause here. This isn't working for me. Let's come back to this. Yeah. It's they come to me with the goal of communicating better, but it's a lot of inner work, a lot of inner confidence that they're looking to shift subconsciously.
Okay. And let me see if I can unpack that a little bit, because on the one hand, we all want more confidence, and it's almost like playing, because it's football season. A great offense is your best defense, right? And so it's like, hey, we want to be more confident. But the truth is, you wrote down imposter, or you referenced imposter syndrome, trust, and you talk about confidence. But to me, when I think of kind of what's the parallel to confidence, it's a sense of worthiness, right? I mean, and so I was just listening to a famous book her famous book, You Can Heal Your Life, Louise Hayes. And she's like, and this is one of the OGs in the self-development space, who's like, yeah, it always comes down to not feeling good enough, not feeling worthy, right? Is that your observation? I mean, because if you're lacking confidence because you don't feel good enough. You don't feel important enough. You don't feel worthy enough. Yes. I mean, do you agree?
Yes. Not feeling worthy enough and being scared of taking up that space too. I think that fear of visibility, that fear of owning the space is another layer of it.
Well, totally. And so what are the
way?
Sorry, say that again.
I was going to say, it's like we self-sabotage. We're in our own way. Like we know we have the capability to be confident, but even then it's like the fear of that visibility, the fear of taking up that space, the fear of having a conversation be a little bit awkward because you needed to set a boundary, but putting it out there anyway, because it's necessary to protect your space. The fear
totally.
of
no, totally. And what I think is interesting, I'd love for you to walk me through an exercise or two, either in the next couple minutes or as we go through our conversation, because what I've observed in my life is you can create a virtuous cycle. So you may be coming from a place of unworthiness, and there's a lot of healing to do and meditation and mindfulness, but it's like, I think of the kind of work you do as these effective hacks where it's like, when you start doing this thing, you start using your voice, you start saying, I'm going to show up and I'm going to say this freaking thing, even if it scares me, even if my voice shakes, you do it and you're like, snap, I did it. Right. And that starts to chip away at the unworthiness, right? Versus saying, hey, I'm going to become completely worthy. And then I'm going to start to use my voice. You might get really old doing that. Right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yes, exactly. Exactly. The confidence comes from the clarity and the doing of the thing, not the other way around. I wholeheartedly believe in that.
So confidence comes from clarity and the doing of the thing. What is, if I was your client and I was coming to you saying, you know what, I'm kind of not feeling like I can really use my whole voice. There's so much more that I want to do with my, career and, my relationships and so forth. What would be an exercise that you would walk me through? Or would you walk me through an exercise that I could then just go, all right, let me just start to do this thing? And maybe there's not that kind of like off the shelf, but I guess I kind of would think that there are one or two things that it's like just about everybody, especially women, can do better with this particular blind spot, if you will.
Sure. So let's say, I think signaling success, I actually recently had a talk at this women's networking group in New York City about this topic, signaling success, like confidently articulating your wins in the workplace to your boss or to leadership in a performance review. I think so many women sometimes fear that they're going to come off arrogant, or they're not going to be sharing the wealth, or there are all these worries. And I would say if someone's looking to grow professionally, to identify the areas that they're doing well, and to say, okay, let's make a list, make a visual list of the areas that you are strong in, where you've made contributions, associate facts or statistics to them, and present them. Let's say you're hoping to get a promotion, or you want to present your case for a promotion, right? That growth professionally. Associate it to a statistic or fact. And when you meet with your boss, you could say, I contributed to this. I was able to make this happen. We were able to impact the work in this way. We were able to increase revenue by X% or whatever it is. But you tie it to a bigger picture, to a company goal. It's no longer just about you. You are like the liaison, the facilitator, and you tie it to that bigger picture and make a case for yourself as to why you maybe want to take on more work, or you want more responsibility, or you want to get a raise, or would be considered for a promotion, whatever it might be. But start with tangible facts and examples of how you made improvements. Find a statistic or two and tie it to a bigger picture. I think that would be one exercise. And how do we do this? Finding your voice does not come from just being in the meeting and saying it in the moment. A little bit of preparation can go a long way. So practice in low stakes environments. I say this all the time to my clients. Low stakes environments where you're in a safe space, and practice. Say it out loud so that it starts to feel natural. You get comfortable with saying what you're saying. You're using your voice. You're hearing yourself. And when the moment comes, you don't feel as sure. It's a little bit scary still, but you don't feel as much like a fish out of water.
And let me ask you this. Would you advise women to do this only when it's time for a performance review, or should they be peppering throughout? Because I always feel like there's a lot in this world of busy people. What have you done for me lately? Right? It's really easy, even for the most well-intentioned people, to forget. Because, especially I think of myself as a leader, I'm always thinking about what's coming, right? And it's a blind spot that I occasionally have. I have to be so intentional about remembering and giving that praise and gratitude to my, team. Honestly, not gonna lie, like my husband, my friends, it's like, okay, crap. It's like, 'cause I'm so thinking about what are we doing next? And so, but I put this out there for all you professionals. There are a lot of bosses like me. Not because we're bad, we're thinking about what's next, because it's my job to take us into the future. It's also my job to appreciate my team, right? But it helps me a lot when my team's like, hey, and remember that thing. And I'm like, oh my God, totally. Right. So it feels what you're saying is that just and not in a kind of, I mean, nothing you're saying is meant to be malicious. I know that, not in a manipulative way, but just in a, hey, I'm going to advocate for myself. I mean, I feel like that's what you're saying, but not necessarily waiting to, hey, it's time for a bonus. It's like, just kind of keep advocating for yourself throughout is it feels like what you're saying with specifics.
Yes, 100%. I think one-on-ones and touch bases with bosses are important, whether it's virtual or in person. Use those opportunities to say, yeah, this exciting thing happened. I was proud to contribute to this. Grateful for this opportunity. Would love to hear your thoughts. Would love to learn about a similar project or whatever it might be. But take those opportunities not only when it's like the moment. There are a lot of little moments sprinkled throughout. Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like it's really the key is being intentional and kind of prioritizing your own career success. And it feels like even what you're saying could be useful in other relationships. Although you don't want to be like the wife who's like, and I did this. The guy's like, yeah, and I did that. And you're like, okay, sorry, that didn't work. All right.
No, for sure.
What is it?
Love that.
Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, take it into the personal space. You could say, I love that you did this. Thank you so much. I was able to do that. And between the two of us, we tackled XYZ. So it's collaborative. It's collaborative.
I think that's good.
Yeah. And it's like, if you don't put it out there, how are they going to know? I think that applies for professional spaces, for personal space. If you don't put it out there, how will they know?
Yeah. I totally agree. Okay. So you talk specifically about conflict avoidant women. What is the number one way for a woman who is conflict avoidant or who feels she's often mistreated to change how she shows up?
So I have a little method that I like to call the bar method. It's not a little method, it's a method.
It's a giant method. It's a gigantic method, but it really works. All right, keep going.
Yes. So it's the bar method. So buy time, assert the boundary, or redirect the conversation. And
okay, hang on, rewind. Buy time,
assert your boundary, or redirect the conversation. And you can mix and match these. You can buy time and redirect. You can assert the boundary and buy time. I mean, the options are many, but this is a great go-to for women who tend to be more passive in their communication, maybe even passive aggressive because that's just what they've learned and that's the go-to. But buying time, say, hey, like I got to get back to you on that. I'm not quite sure if like someone's in like an auto agree mode. Or redirecting, like, I'd rather not get into that right now, but would love to hear about your trip. I know you just came back. How was it? Like redirecting the conversation altogether. And then asserting the boundary, which there's two techniques that I teach within my coaching for this, but age is one of them. Prefacing with a little bit of gratitude and empathy, approaching it with that, or calling it out directly. Hey, look, you said this and I don't appreciate that. I don't like that. Articulating what you liked or disliked, what you need or what you don't want. If you need to be more direct, that's like a second, more direct option for asserting that boundary. So,
okay. Is there an example? Sorry?
I said a lot of information there, I know.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think it'll be most useful for everybody watching and listening to go through an example, because again, the theory is great. Amazing theory. I mean, what is it? Mike Tyson who says everybody has a plan until you get punched in the mouth, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's in that moment. You're in your sympathetic nervous system. You're stressed. You're pissed. You're hurt. I mean, right? These are you're uncertain. I mean, so it's in these. In fact, there's another quote. Oh God, I wish I could think of it a little bit more articulate. It's like change happens. Not when you're meditating, not when you're journaling. And I do all those things, right? It's when you're on the mat in the middle of the conflict. That's where the change, in my experience, that's really where the change takes place, right? And that's even, just going back and asking you about the example in your marriage. It's like all the theories are great and you need to know the theory so you can apply it, but it's in applying it and saying, okay, I'm not going to do the same goddamn thing again. I'm going to fucking do something different because I am tired of feeling, and I use this very foul language. Sorry, everybody. You know what to expect on my show. No, but I say that with so much passion and on behalf of literally millions of women who feel like we can't use our voices. It's dangerous to use our voices. We have been socialized to not use our voices, to smile, and I'm just going to keep the peace. It's just going to be easier if I just fucking swallow it. Guess what, ladies? No, it's not. And a lot of men are like this too. Let's just be clear. This is not just a gender thing, right? Yes, it tends to dominate with more women, but there are plenty of men who feel like they have to swallow it. And it feels bad and it makes you sick. And that is proven through so much data that if you don't use your voice and if you just feel like you have to be nice and swallow it, it is going to show up in a lot of dysfunction in relationships, lack of promotion at work, and in the worst case scenario, in conditions in our bodies, right? So walk me through an example. If there's, I mean, listen, you can make it up or you can change somebody's name, but if you will walk me through an example or two examples, or just whatever is appropriate here to say, here's a scenario, here's how this person did it, or here's how I advise them. And I'm happy to role play. You can put me in a scenario, because I say this, Raele. I mean, I'm obviously so passionate about it, and I know you are too. This is where change happens. Change is not theoretical. Change is change. Change is by being in the heat of the moment and doing it differently. And by the way, I love this whole business of buying time. And I was going to come back to this, but I mean, there was a scenario that I had recently, and it was like really tough, and someone was being really toxic to me. And I was like, okay, and I pushed back a little bit. I was like, okay. And I circled back the next day and I'm like, you know what? I thought, and this person offered an apology, but it really bothered me. And I circled back the next day very calmly. I made the case for how much it bothered me and they completely owned it. And I was like, snap, thank you. And they're like, yeah, I thought about what you said and you're right. And I was like, thank you. Like, I feel so much better and stronger having called that person out, but in a way that was really respectful. And the night before, this person had, day before rather, this person had apologized. But I say this because when this whole business of buying time, if you don't get it right in the moment, you don't have to get it right in the moment. And if anything, I would say, and I'm wondering what you think, if you're going to be really reactive, don't try to solve it in the moment because you just make it worse.
I completely agree. By time, yeah. So I say we have to come back to this, or I can't get into this now, or you are not calm, and it's making me anxious.
Or I'm not calm. You know what? Like I care enough about this relationship where I care enough about myself and about you. I'm going to come back, and maybe it's not tomorrow. Maybe it's 2 or 3 days. I mean, listen, months later is a little But I feel like, and by the way, I'm going to call it anybody who's making excuses because I used to do that too. Maybe I sometimes still do. Oh, 2 or 3 days have passed. It's too late. I'm going to swallow it. Don't swallow it. If you're feeling, here's what I do. If I'm feeling bad about something and I'm chewing on it, even if it's a few days later, a week later, and sometimes, especially with parents and siblings and even marriages, if something is years old and you say, I'm just going to swallow it, happened years ago, don't. Because if you're thinking about it, your energy is projecting it, and it is impacting the relationship. Whether you think you're saying it or not, you're saying it because your body is saying it, because your energy field is saying it. So 100%, don't sit here and continue to say and fake yourself out that, yeah, it's okay. I'm just going to keep swallowing it. I mean, anyway, so I'm getting like really hyper on today's show.
No, it's true. And it's you hold them accountable too. I mean, there were things that took place when I was younger that I brought up to my parents, a specific parent. And I said, years have passed, but that wasn't cool. And it as an adult, we had that conversation and it nudged them, or not nudged, but it forced them to face it and look at their adult child now and be held accountable. So yes.
Did they? I mean, in this case, were you able to say it in a way that your parent could hear it, and could they make the repair, Raele?
Not really. They heard it, but it took a lot to say, there was a lot of excuse making still. Yeah, so not really, unfortunately, but I knew what I was saying was right and valid. And sometimes it's like you may not get the closure, but you at least put it out there, and sometimes has to be enough.
Can I give you a big high five? I mean, genuinely. And I say this, and I really want to circle back and emphasize the point. They made excuses. They were probably defensive. You weren't able to get the closure necessarily. You weren't able to get the repair made, but you did your part, right? And that to me is like the beauty and brilliance of growing up emotionally, and like owning where you are and saying, I'm going to do my part, and I can't be attached to the outcome, because if I'm attached to the outcome, then I'm going to get really pissed. Like if I put myself out there and I'm expecting this tearful apology and they don't bring it, now I'm doubly pissed.
Right. And sometimes buying time helps with that, where you buy some time, you've separated yourself enough from the situation that you don't need to attach to the outcome in order to move forward in a healthy way. Versus when you're in the heat of the moment, the argument, the conflict, the drama, the bad behavior, you're just hoping for change so much that you're at their mercy almost. You're at the other person's mercy, whether they get it or not.
Well, and there was somebody who I'm close to. This is a parenting expert, and I remember interviewing her, and somebody I just really love. And by the way, we all have blind spots, and I learned so much from my guests, and I get challenged by my guests all the time, and it's a great gift. She said, with regard to her dad, it's a dysfunctional relationship, and this is a very accomplished woman, and she was just like, oh, I need him to do whatever. And I just stopped her. I'm like, wait, you don't need him to do that. I know you feel like you need him, but if you need him and he doesn't, I mean, and I say this because we've all felt like that. I need my spouse to do this. I need my kid to do this. I need my parent to do this. I need somebody else to do this thing. And I just feel like you are setting yourself, sometimes it works. Sometimes the person, it's like this idea of I rise and the person rises with me. I love it. That happens. It really does. Like if you're wise and you've got, kind of clarity and so forth. But I just want to call out this idea of I need this person too. It just feels like you're setting yourself up for failure. Do you get that a lot in your coaching? Like where the person just is really attached to another person's response? And what do you tell them?
Yes. I have gotten that. I've noticed it within some of my clients, and I tell them that you can only control what you can control, and you can only be responsible for yourself.
I mean, that's hard to swallow, right? Because it's like, I need my dad to apologize. I need my mom to say, yeah, whatever. And it's like, and if they can't, they can't. Or if they just have those blind spots, I mean, what are you going to do if you say you need it? And I even feel like that neediness, like if you're showing up and trying to have that wise conversation, even that energy of I need this, to me is going to negatively impact the outcome versus saying, and not even saying, feeling, I'm going to do my part and that's all. And then I'm totally detached from like that energy of detachment, snap, it is powerful. Like if it's real detachment, people feel that. Because the opposite is true too. If I feel like I'm judging you and I'm criticizing you, it's hard to feel really seen and feel like, and this has been my experience, to really own where you've effed up. We've all known when we've messed up.
Mm-hmm. Well, right? Most people.
Okay, maybe you're right. You're right, but maybe it's that those layers of defensiveness. You're right. That prevent that real, complete ownership and accountability, because it would just be so painful. It'd be like death. Like, and especially for a parent. As a parent myself, I've owned many mistakes. So I talk about it openly with, apologize to my kids plenty. But I do feel like for a parent, that is one of the hardest things, to be able to admit where you messed up, because that's like the ultimate failure in a lot of ways.
Right. Maybe. My kids are still young, so I'm sure it gets more complex as the issues get more complex and they become their own people. But it also shows them that it shows them a good example, I think. of how to be a good person, how to be aware, how to own your stuff, how to say, yeah, I messed up here. I was in the wrong.
Yeah, no, totally.
Do it when it inevitably comes time for them. So
yeah, no, that modeling I think is so important. So, okay, so I feel like I got us off on a couple of major tangents. So coming back to an exercise using the bar technique, how do you walk me through putting that into practice?
Sure. So I remembered an example from a client on a group coaching call recently. She had shared that her sister is a very volatile person and tends to snap quickly. And then a few days later, just acts like nothing happened. And everyone's come to accept that this is just how she is, right? So my client shared that she was yelling about something, that the sister was yelling to my client about something on the phone for like close to an hour. And my client was just sitting there, like she just took it and was just taking it, and was so drained by the end of the phone call. I don't even remember how she said it ended, but she did not stop her and say, look, this isn't working. So scenario like this, how do you apply the bar technique or the bar method? Excuse me. Yeah. I would say redirect is out the window. It's not time to say, hey, look, let's forget it. Let's chat about this instead. They were talking about a very heavy issue about another family member. So redirect's out the window. I would stop right there, assert the boundary not with, I guess you could do it with gratitude, empathy, or call it out directly. So gratitude, empathy would look like, hey, I know this is a sensitive topic for all of us, but the way you're speaking to me is not going to work. Or I don't appreciate how you're speaking to me. Calling it out. That's with a little bit of gratitude and empathy. Calling it out, like the way you're speaking to me is just not acceptable.
And that's the assert the boundary.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's asserting the boundary. This is not okay. I'm upset too. And we are going to get nowhere with you talking like this. And I can't continue listening while you're speaking like this. So let's take a pause and shoot me a text when you're feeling more calm and we can pick this conversation back up. By time.
And did she, do you know whether she tried that? Or I guess it was already, in that case, the situation had already occurred.
Yes, it had occurred. And I'd given her an option to say, look, if she comes back and acts like nothing happened, hold her accountable and say, look, again, I know this is a tough situation, a tough time within our family, but I can't accept you continuing to speak to me in this way. It's not productive, and it's hurtful, and it's disrespectful. So showing a little bit of the impact of it too. Who is it impacting?
Yeah. Can you talk about women over talking? Because this is something I still sometimes do and used to do a lot more, because I could see myself in that scenario where I know the right thing to do, but it's so uncomfortable to call somebody out or to be the bearer of bad news or to assert myself. And again, ladies and some guys, this is so common. That's why I'm asking about it, where it's like, blah, 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 this, that, everything else. Oh, by the way, would you please be a little more respectful to me? Do you see that? Is this a over talking? Is that a common problem that you see?
It can be, yes. And my recommendation is come out with the thing first.
Just say it.
Yes. And I know that's easier said than done, but that's why you practice in low stakes environments. You practice when you're driving in the car, when you're alone, when you're with it. And it may feel a little crazy. Who cares? But you build the muscle memory and you build confidence in your voice in that low stakes environment. So when the time comes, you say it with a little bit more intention and you feel comfortable in that space. Yeah. But come out with it first. Even if, let's say, like you have to have a meeting with someone, I don't know, or someone who reports to you and they're not performing great. Hey, look, thanks for coming. The reason I called this meeting was because like come out with it right away. Or maybe it's a presentation at work about something positive. But look, hey, we're meeting today to discuss Q2 reporting and data and what projections are going to look like for Q4. I don't know, but come out with it first.
Right. Yeah. And practice that. Well, even this idea of like you're talking about low stakes situations, I even feel like when you're afraid, and especially there are so many women, when they're saying something, the pitch of their voice goes up at the end, like they're asking a question. Like I hear this all the time. And it's like, I just want to say lower, like get in your body and lower your voice. Like practice lowering your voice, because that changes the tone a lot.
Yes. And slowing down, talking just a little bit slower than you might normally helps you regulate a little bit.
Yeah.
Helps you also just helps your mind catch up with your thoughts a bit and your words. I mean, slowing down just by a beat or two.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love that. And it's just, to me, it's such a practical, physiological way between the slowing down, lowering the tone of your voice to regain a little bit of control, right? So you're not like, oh my God, this is so scary. I don't want to say this thing because I don't want this person to be mad at me or to reject me or, to cause my nervous system to get triggered or to overreact. Right. And again, whether it's in this case, you were talking about your client with your sister, but so many of us replace sister with some other person that you get triggered by. Right. And I think we've all been there. I'd love to circle back to the conversation you had with your parent, or just your advice when it comes to approaching a delicate situation. Right. I mean, when I think about the bar approach, that your technique, that you described, that feels like it's in the moment. There's conflict happening versus, hey, mom, hey, dad, hey, sweetie, something happened yesterday, 2 years ago. I got to get off my chest. Can you just walk people through how to have those hard conversations in a way that leads to the most productive, desired outcomes?
Call it out. Call out the thing that happened directly. Mention its impact, whether it was 2 days ago, 6 months ago, 10 years ago. Mention the impact, how it hurt you or how it impacted you in some way.
Yeah.
And let them know what you need, or let them know what you're looking for. Again, you may not get it. And at that point, you have to be confident enough to close the conversation anyway, or to move on, but let them know what you're looking for is what I would recommend. And if necessary, present a consequence. Like if you want to take it there, link it to some sort of consequence. If you are ready to present that ultimatum, then do it. Look, a few years back, this and this happened, and it really hurt me and messed me up for many years, and I'm still unpacking it. I would really love for you to acknowledge that that wasn't okay, and just hear you reflect on it in hindsight, so we can move on. And if you can't do that, we need to rethink our relationship, or I need to reassess where our dynamic will where you fall.
I want to push back on that a little bit. And this is something I've learned over time. And listen, it can work, but what's concerning to me, I feel like when you put consequences in place, you often don't give somebody an opportunity to save face. And in that moment, if they can't give it to you, versus maybe 2 or 3 days later, they go, you know what? I've thought about it and you're right. And sometimes it happens. Probably a lot of times it doesn't, because not enough people, I would say, sadly, are willing to be accountable and do their work. But every now and then, that little bit of time and that little, to your point about the age metaphor or acronym, in terms of giving grace, having that empathy, because a lot of times I don't think people intend to be hurtful. They hurt, but they were hurt, right? I mean, it's like, it becomes this ripple effect. And so I wonder, rather than advise, and you did say sometimes, so I want to be careful and not, kind of say, well, you always, everybody should always gives a consequence. But I have found, oh my God, I have effed this up so many times with my kids when I've given a consequence that I had no intention of holding. you don't do this. I mean, and wait till your kids are 12 and 15, Raele. You'll be like, oh shit. Right. And in the moment, like you want to give that consequence because it's like you want to go from A to D. Right. And that feels logical, but they're dysregulated or they see it differently. And now you've put a consequence in place. So either you can't save face or they can't save face. Like it feels like kind of a, oh shoot, now we're having a harder time breaking through, right? Because there's a thing in place that didn't need to be put in place. And I've done it a ton and I've almost always regretted it, because then they may say, in any of these situations, I mean, the unpacking can really be where the magic is the most beneficial versus, okay, I was just shut down. I'm shut down. Now, you're giving me a consequence? Okay, peace out.
Totally. It's like I said, it's an ultimatum, I think, for people or personalities who you are ready to, who have disrespected boundaries multiple times, who don't take accountability, who don't acknowledge their hurt, and you're ready to take it to that step.
Well, I think that's an important point. That if this is and I think that's an extraordinarily important point, disrespect after disrespect after disrespect. Okay, now we're having this conversation multiple times. I mean, a lot of on Instagram. Oh, you get disrespected once, you shut that shit down. I mean, come on, like let's be real. Like everybody deserves a second chance. But if it's disrespect after disrespect, then yes, then this is the consequence. But you still, ladies, and a few dudes, you gotta be ready to walk the F away, right? And that's the hard part. If you're, especially, I feel like this seems really common in dating, or in a relationship where it's like being taken advantage of, and if you say, "Hey, I'm out," if you don't do this, and then he doesn't do it, and you're like, "Oh shit, just kidding," right? That takes real strength and real clarity. Like, so don't say it unless you're willing to do it. Is I guess how I'd like to wrap this segment up.
Yes. I mean, if you're going to present someone with an ultimatum, then feel good about sticking to it, because that also, it's like a promise you're keeping to yourself too. That builds confidence. So if you're going to have a consequence or an ultimatum, then be prepared to stick with it for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So thank you for that. I love it. Talking about imposter syndrome, is that one of the key things that you see in your practice, or how prevalent is this business of imposter syndrome?
It's prevalent.
By the way, can you just say what it is? Because I feel like some people might have some different ideas. So what is imposter syndrome? And then you can keep going.
Sure. Imposter syndrome is when you feel you're not worthy of being of a certain title. You are not capable. You're not accomplished enough. You could have all the degrees, all the accolades, all of the recognition, but you still feel like you're a fraud. And this is common in high achievers, high performers. A client that I've been working with for several years is a very high performing woman in finance and still works on this daily. Works on
so
this
she
area.
Might have the big, she might make bank. She's got probably the big title. Maybe she's at Morgan Stanley or wherever she is, probably some big ass fancy Wall Street company. And she still feels like, what the F am I doing? When are they going to find out about me? When are they going to find out I'm not good enough? Is that a good assessment?
Yeah. Yeah. And that can show up in not accepting a compliment or praise, or just feeling uncomfortable with that visibility, really being uncomfortable in presenting or in meetings. I've had a few clients tell me like, oh, like, I know the content. I know I got promoted. I'm deserved to be in this role, but I just black out when it comes to speaking to leadership and presenting. And I feel like I have no idea what I'm talking about and why am I there? So
I had a funny experience. I was an intern at Goldman a long time ago, and they were, it was a lot of trying to really promote. I mean, as you can imagine, very male dominated. I mean, finance still is, but really trying to promote more female leadership, more women speaking up and so forth. And they use this funny metaphor. It was this, all these people were in a boardroom, and the guy speaking, the guy leading it was like, listen, I've got a really, really important project and I need volunteers. And I'm going to tell you what it is. And I want you, if you feel like you're qualified, this is a really big big opportunity. So I want you to, I'm looking for volunteers. This is and it's men and women. This is a project on breastfeeding. And then they go around the room and it's like you're seeing the thought bubbles in the women's head, like, oh shit, I had such a hard time breastfeeding and I didn't breastfeed. I only breastfed for 1 month. I only breastfed, all the thought bubbles in the women's heads. And again, this is just a little funny story where all these women are disqualifying themselves because they didn't breastfeed perfectly or they did it 3 years ago. And then you have like all the guys like, oh yeah, my wife breastfed. I know everything about breast, right? And it's such a funny little metaphorical story where so many women will overthink and second guess. And the guys, and I realize people are going to want to like hate me because these are major gender stereotypes, but they're stereotypes because they often are true, right? The guys are like, my wife breastfed, I was breastfed, I remember, you know what I mean? And I just think of like how often women, to the point of the high achieving woman in finance that you're coaching, and probably a lot of them, where it's that second guessing and that feeling like I don't have it perfect, so I'm not going to say anything. But so often the guys will say, I don't need it perfect. I need to raise my hand. I'll figure that shit out.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Which is why even women don't apply for certain jobs. I don't have the statistic right off the top of my head, but
I know exactly what you're talking about. It's like in a list of like 10 qualifications. If a guy has like 3, he'll apply. I mean, it's just this huge mismatch. And if the woman she'll need to have at least 8. Right. And again, we're kind of generalizing here, but I've seen that stat that a woman will not apply if she doesn't have the majority of the criteria. And generally speaking, men will apply even if they have just disqualifying number. It's like, I'll figure it out.
Yes. And communication is one part of that. So in my corner of the world and internet, I try to at least help women own their space and show up, even if it's imperfectly, show up, get better at saying what they want, asking for what they want. And listen, sometimes it's not going to win you the popularity contest. It's not.
Oh, it often isn't. Yeah. And that becomes sort of a self-perpetuating cycle. Like if you can be okay not winning the popularity contest in the short run, you dominate in the long run, right? I mean, there are a lot of memes on like, be willing to be your sole voice, be willing to, not need the applause, be willing to feel a little lonely for a while, because if you're willing to play the long game,
right,
that sense of self and not feeling popular for the short term, I mean, it changes you. Let me come back to something related to the imposter syndrome phenomenon. Fake it till you make it. What's your take?
I would rather approach it as act as if.
I like that. Okay.
Yeah. Someone actually told me this at a panel event in New York, and it stuck with me. Act as if. So it's not like, okay, be fake it until you make it, but act as if you are that person already. Visualize that higher, more confident, more articulate version of yourself, the person who already did the thing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love that. And that feels better, because I'm not a big fake it till you make it person either. But this idea of act as if and stepping into that version of yourself that does feel more worthy and accomplished, right? I mean, that it's like you're getting your nervous system used to that feeling is that I feel like that's a great practice. So for the women, especially for those who tend to be a little more conflict avoidant, listening to this or watching this, what is the number one thing that you would advise them to do or not do?
Identify what you want. take a minute or two, because I think, again, sometimes in conflict, we get so fired up and we feel the feelings and we're upset, we're angry in the moment. We almost lose sight of, okay, what is the end goal here? What do I want? What am I hoping for? Identify what you want and operate from that place. And so, and find the voice to say, look, I hear you've had a long day, but like, I really would like you to handle this by.
Okay. So yeah, keep going. I was going to ask you a question. Keep going with your example.
Yes. So like, almost like when you know your end goal, it helps saying the things a little bit easier. Might be scary still, but think about your end goal, what you want, and own that. Really, really let it sit and get comfortable with it, so that if you get pushback, if you get, oh, look, I'll do it tomorrow. Like, oh my God, you're just nagging. And it's just, you're always on my case. It's like, well, and this is what I need. This is what I need done. I've asked you about this a few times, and I don't want to be the one handling it. So I really want you to handle this one, or I need you to take care of this, or whatever. But like, think about the end goal and sink in, get comfortable with that so that you can speak to it more confidently.
Yeah. Clarity is, I talk about peace in the same way. I mean, peace to me is one of the most underrated states of being, right? Especially we're in a very stressed out culture. But clarity, I put in a similar category. Clarity punches so above its weight. And when you first started talking, when you're like, well, what do you want? And I'm like, I'm up here. I'm like, okay, I want all this like big stuff, right? But you wisely said, no, bring it into the moment, right? And yes, I mean, those are not mutually exclusive. I want more career success. I want more social media followers. I want, blah, 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 blah. But this idea of like, what do I want in this moment where there may be some conflict avoidance, like just having that clarity is, I just feel like it's such a, and owning it, right? In a way that it's like, yeah, and I deserve it. Like I deserve to be able to say, I mean, my husband and I, we just went, and I don't want to talk about my marriage too much on the show, but this is a good thing. We were talking the other day about, something in our relationship. And it was like, well, I need to be able to say no and not feel bad. And he's like, well, you totally can. And I was like, thank you. Right. And because for a long time, I didn't feel like it. And I never pressed that with him, which is on me. Right. But I mean, because I'm like, well, he would have, it's like I'd see the disappointment in his body language. I don't want to disappoint my husband. You know what I mean? And so we finally had this, like, it was like this great breakthrough. Right. And because it was like, well, I need to be able to say no without feeling like I'm in trouble. And he's like, well, of course you can. And I'm like, okay. And it sounds so dumb, but I'm willing to say it to everybody because I know I'm not alone. I know millions of people. And again, whether it's male or female, whether it's in a marriage or a different relationship, this idea of being able to talk about, hey, something in a dynamic where it's like, we both want to please each other and serve each other and honor each other. But sometimes the timing doesn't work, or I don't feel like I can do the thing. And then, the passive aggression begins, or the avoiding begins, and all that stuff, just because we've been, especially as women, habituated to not, to people please. And so in my relationship, at times I would just avoid it altogether. And then he really felt bad. Right. But I didn't want to disappoint. So what's easier than disappointing? Not doing anything. Right. Which is like bad for the relationship. Right. So in my attempt to avoid that conflict and that feeling like now I'm disappointing him, I would withdraw, and that felt bad for him.
Right. I love that. It sounds so simple when you say it, like I need to say no without feeling bad, but there's power in that.
Major power. Like I felt so much better.
Yeah.
And he felt better, right? Because I was holding it like he hadn't. I mean, this is a thing, and this is what's so common, especially in marriage, but I think in a lot of important close relationships. I mean, we hold so much back because it's scary, because we don't want to hurt somebody else, because we're busy and exhausted. You know what I mean? So it's like so much easier not to get into it, but you pay a price for not getting into it.
Oh, I tell my clients all the time, choose your discomfort. There's discomfort speaking up now, and then there's going to be discomfort in not speaking up later. That's worse. So it's a way to reframe and not feel so burdened by the thing. Choose your discomfort.
I love that, Rael. And I would just add to that by saying you can choose your discomfort now or later, but you're going to pay. I mean, it reminds me when you take out a big freaking high interest loan, because that's what we're talking about. The tax you pay and it compounds. I mean, talking about finance, compounding tax at a high tax rate, what you pay down the road is a lot higher than if you just do it now. And here, this is one of my dad's, my dad has all these great things that he's taught me. One of my favorite quotes from him is the best time to plant a tree, 40 years ago. Second best time to plant a tree is today. And I think about that in what you and I are talking about, right? Especially for people in marriages that have, I mean, years and even decades. And you're like, no, it's just the way it is. Guess what, people? It's not. It doesn't have to be. And again, with parents, like it doesn't just have to be marriage. So many relationships can get transformed instantly. I've seen it. I've done it in my own life. And so I know there's that heavy feeling of it's too late. Why bother? They're never going to change. That's bullshit. They may not change. But I always feel like if I show up differently, there's a damn good chance the dynamic will change. That's been my experience.
If we just rely on, it's just how it's always been, it's how it's going to be, then nothing would ever change. Then why address any dynamic or any problem ever?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, let me ask you this final question, and it may be an easy answer, it may not. I'm not sure. But you referenced trust earlier on, which has been a big one for me to cultivate. And again, game changer, right? Like I can have these harder conversations because I trust myself. I trust the universe so much more. So how can women cultivate trust in themselves after years of so much doubt and second guessing?
Start small and keep the promises you make to yourself. Like if it's something like, hey, I'm going to work out for 15 minutes today, or I'm going to journal for 10 minutes and write down 5 things, or I am going to, whatever it might be, but keep those promises to yourself. I really believe in that because you reaffirm what your mind is thinking and what you want to do. And then you do the thing and it is a confidence builder.
Yeah.
What would be another thing? What would you add? I'm curious to hear what.
Thanks. I think I would add saying, I mean, this is one of my favorite phrases. It's say the scary thing, right? And it's so easy just to avoid and then to rationalize. Like, call yourself out when you're rationalizing. Call yourself out when you're making excuses. I mean, because when you realize I'm avoiding the thing, and if you're being honest with yourself, to me, integrity is the more integrity I have, the more magnetic and authentic I am, right? If I'm willing to own when I'm out of integrity, and I'm out of integrity, I will say this, I'm out of integrity when I'm avoiding something that's scary. Now, sometimes your point's the right one. Sometimes you need to buy time. And I'm a huge believer. Like, if you're going to blow up and make it worse, then buy time. And it doesn't have to be an hour from now, it can be 2 days, 3 days, whatever. Being able to show up and say the scary thing and have that difficult conversation when you're grounded and you're clear on your intention. I'm saying this for this reason, like the clarity that you were talking about. So to me, it's really about giving yourself that time and space to have the clarity to get into integrity if you've been avoiding something. But that's it. It's saying I'm willing to call myself out when I'm avoiding something, because you can't fake your energy. You think you're high. You think it's just inside of you. It's not. And that's as somebody now that's in my 50s who's gotten it wrong plenty, right? That's part why I'm doing the show, keeping it real, everybody. That it's so much easier to not say the thing. It's so much easier just to swallow it. And I think that's why I got so fired up, half an hour ago when we were talking, because and it's the taxing that we were just talking about. Own your discomfort now, or own a hell of a lot more discomfort and resentment and maybe an inflammatory disease, right? It all compounds, and not to the good. Oh, by the way, it actually can compound to the good. I think the more that you have these, I mean, my husband and I are just like, we wish we'd have had these conversations a long time ago. That would have compounded to the good. Like you and your cute Eric. I've never seen him, but I know he's cute because of what you described. Right. So right. I do feel like that building trust. And I love your thing about like keeping your own promises to yourself, right? Because that's where trust begins. But I also believe our relationships are our greatest teachers, whether with our little ones, our bambinos, because they teach us so much. Just wait till what your kids teach you. And then come talk to me in 10 years.
I would love to pick your brain as the years go on.
Yeah. But intimate relationships, marriages, they're sacred for a reason, right? Because they show us those parts. Our kids show us those blind spots and those parts of ourselves that are hard. But to me, it's often next level with a romantic relationship in particular. And so to not avoid the thing, but to show up and say it even when it's scary, and to build that openness and trust and intimacy and take off the mask a little bit, that compounds in time, So, and if I can trust myself, so, I asked you and then you asked me about this whole business of trust. I think that builds trust. And even to the point you made about talking to one of your parents who couldn't give you what you really, maybe they couldn't give you that closure, but you were detached from it, but you did the thing. And that builds trust in yourself because you did the thing. You didn't avoid it. It's not a theory. That to me, trust is not a theory. It's like courage. You don't just get to say I'm courageous. It's tested. You're courageous when you're tested. Did you do the scary thing? Yes or no?
Yes. And actually, one more thing I'll add really quickly is if something happens that doesn't sit right with you, I think women are quick to freeze or fawn or nervously laugh, or just maybe you don't have to say anything. Maybe you don't right away. You don't have to say anything right away as you're building up this muscle, but don't laugh. Don't engage back. Don't enable the negative behavior. If someone makes a joke at your expense publicly, I don't know, but instead of just chuckling along to swipe or sweep the awkward moment under the rug, don't give in to giving a reaction just to make it okay. At least just take a pause. And that right there, it's getting into your instinct of feeling like, wait, what? And at least in that moment, you're honoring that instead of just pretending that it's all good. I personally wish I learned that years ago, because my go-to is always to fawn and just be like, oh, whatever, like just pretend like it didn't happen. Just make it okay for everybody. Meanwhile, I'm the one that's in discomfort.
Not okay. Yeah. Yes. No, I love that. And for people who aren't watching, I'm just giving a little hand heart to Raele, because that is so common. And here's what I just want to add to that, and we'll wrap up. When you mess it up, because you probably will until you become a master at it, give yourself grace, notice, right? Because so much of making these kinds of really profound changes, and this is a profound one, someone says something that you're uncomfortable with, and you, like you say, you laugh it off, you just nod. We have been so habituated to make that okay because that keeps us safe, right? There is a lot of evolution why, particularly as women, we do that, right? So just for anybody who's like, yes, I'm going to do it differently. I'm going to do exactly what Raele said. I'm either going to keep a blank face. I might say, you know what, that doesn't make me feel very comfortable. Like, I'm going to reply differently. I'm going to step up in a different way. But when you slip back into the habit and you laugh and you take it, give yourself grace, back to age, gratitude, grace, empathy for yourself, right? Because that's where it starts. And just know you'll have a chance to practice it again. But that is I'm so glad you raised that, because that's so common. And I've gotten it wrong so many times. And then I got it wrong. Like, I crucified myself like 10 times over. I'd be like, how the hell did I not have more integrity and stand up for myself in that moment? And that made it way worse. Like now I've really it was bad. I just made it way worse on myself. I'm not doing that anymore. And I don't want any of you guys, if you mess it up, just know millions of years of evolution have caused you to keep yourself safe in a really uncomfortable moment. And you're going to have so many chances to do it again. So just commit to yourself. You're going to keep practicing until you master it.
Yes. Yes. Keep us in mind because it's a work in progress.
Yes. Yeah, no, this stuff is, it is so habituated into our nervous systems, into us, as in our culture socially. It takes a lot to make this change. And that's, going back to the beginning of our conversation, it's like it starts with the theory of change, learning it, and then practicing it. And I like how you keep saying in the low stake situation, right? Because the more I feel like we practice, slowing down, keeping our voices low, practice saying the scary thing in these low stake situations, the better off as the stakes get higher and the consequences become that much more meaningful. Like that is how, in my experience, I've been able to create what I always call a virtuous cycle, right? We're so used to talking about vicious cycles. One thing happens and it spins out of control. I've really created, in my life, I've really tried to create a virtuous cycle where it spirals. Like it's like, okay, cool. I'm changing these things.
Yes.
All right, Raele, I'm going to give you the last word. We've covered a lot of ground, but any last nugget of advice or anything else you want to leave anybody with before we wrap up? And it's perfectly okay to say, no, I'm good.
I feel like we covered a lot, but yeah, practice, build that muscle memory. Confidence is a muscle. Good communication is a muscle. And you have to work it out like you would work out at the gym. So keep working out, keep practicing, repeating, and use the gym analogy when you need to.
Yeah, no, I love that. Amazing. All right. Thank you so much for being on Getting Open. Raele Altano, you have been an amazing guest with so many great takeaways. Thanks for being on my show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Andrea. Truly appreciate it. And I'm in awe of everything you do too. So keep it up.
Thank you. Oh gosh, guys, thanks so much for tuning into that. I feel so cleansed. And if you hear me speaking with a low voice a little more slowly, you'll be like, yeah, I remember that episode. There are so many actionable takeaways. I hope there are multiple ones that you are going to take with you and start to implement today, whether it's act as if, using that lower, slower voice, calling, not even calling yourself out, just noticing if you're in that people pleasing or fawning, where we spent a few minutes at the end and I got pretty fired up. All these things are, to me, opportunities to reprogram yourself. And I'm really glad to have brought you a show today that was so chock full of actionable ways to do that. Okay, if you want to get to know Raele better, you can follow her on her socials, Well with Raele. Her name is spelled Raele. You can subscribe to her newsletter at wellwithraele.com. Again, that's well, WELLWITH, RAELE.com. She does one-on-one coaching. She has a group, like a monthly group session. And honestly, I feel like if you're kind of somebody that identifies with being conflict avoidant or in that people pleasing or somebody that deals with imposter syndrome, getting to know her work and taking advice from her could be the game changer that changes everything for you. That's our show. As always, if you aren't already following or subscribing, please do so wherever you get the show, on YouTube, on Spotify, iHeart, you name it. As always, I love when you write to me at gettingopen@yourtango.com. Love your comments. So appreciate it. And we'll see you in the next episode. Thanks so much for tuning in.